שלום ברדפנו.
Some of us have lost close people this year, and some of us have lost close people in previous years and previous times. It's nice to take a moment on Yom Kippur to be with the memory of those who have passed. We're going to start our Yizkor service with a poem by a poet named Zelda, Jerusalem lady who presented poetry, spiritual poetry, in a way that made it accessible to people who don't consider themselves religious. And her most famous poem is this one that I'm going to ask Sylvia Stein to come up and read. It's called Lechol Ish Yesh Shem. Every person has a name.
Every person has a name given to them by God and by their parent and parent. Every person has a name given to them by their stature and by the manner of their smile and by their clothes. Every person has a name given to them by the mountains and by the walls of their house. Every person has a name given to them by the zodiac and by their neighbors. Every person has a name given to them by their sins and by their yearnings. Every person has a name given to them by their enemies and by their love. Every person has a name given to them by their holidays and by their profession. Every person has a name given to them by the seasons and by their blindness. Every person has a name given to them by God and by their parent and parent. Every person has a name given to them by the sea and by their death.
We're going to read now the names of those in our community who have passed during this last year. And after that, we're going to scroll the names of all the members in our community who have passed and who we hold their memory dear. As the names are scrolling, you're going to hear Dana improvising on a prayer from Yizkor. Ma Adam v'tedaehu. What is a human being that you should know him? What is a human being? Those who passed this past year were Robert Byrne, the father of Lizzie Byrne de Geer, Lila Fate, the mother of Susan Myers and Dawn Fate, Amber Grummett, a dear friend of Joni Zosike and mine as well, Eleanor Kraskow, the sister of Tina Kraskow, Herbert R. Meisel, the father of Susan Meisel, Ruth S. Meisel, the mother of Susan Meisel, Adrian Myers, the mother of Robert Myers, Mok Mokotov, the uncle of Lizzie Byrne de Geer, Joyce Queen, the mother of Holly Gawanter, and George Otis Winston III, the dear friend of Joni Zosike. Yes? Yes, please.
I'd like to add the name of Vola and Jean-Loup.
Vola and?
Jean-Loup.
And Jean-Loup.
Friends
of Jessica. Anybody else?
Lionel Reed.
Alex Devichevsky. Peggy Byrne. Lila Reach. Sandra Smith and Anson Cole.
Eleanor Newworth.
Could you say it one more time?
Eleanor Newworth.
Eleanor Newworth.
Marvin Hirsch.
Marvin Hirsch.
Oh, not this one.
Not this year, just this past year. We're talking just this.
Chuck Rothstein.
Chuck Rothstein.
Sam Leopold.
Sam Leopold.
John Huber.
John Gibberth. Huberth. And Jacob, when you're ready, you can start the slide. And Dana and Jonathan, when you're ready, you can accompany it with some music. We hold them all dearly in our hearts. We feel their presence in our lives, as well as their lack of presence in the way that it was. תודה דנה, תודה יונתן. Would anyone like to say anything about any of these people? If you would like, you're welcome to say a word, memory.
This is a teaching from my wife, whose name appeared on the screen, rose up and disappeared. Once I had a job that I shouldn't have had, and it kept me up at night and worried all the time. And one night I woke up in a sweat, and I woke her up and I said, "Eileen, is everything going to be okay?" And she said, "No, everything is okay."
Yehi zichra baruch. Anyone else?
So my parents, dear friend Chuck Rothstein died unexpectedly, and he was a psychoanalyst, and he was a real wild guy. Loved skiing and fast cars, and loved to eat take the pan of roast beef and just tip it into his mouth. And when they had his funeral or his memorial service, one of his mentors, his analyst, said that when people would ask Chuck, "How are you doing?" he would answer, "Embarrassingly well."
Thanks, Rebecca. Anyone else? Yeah.
Talk loud.
Go for it.
So I used to have a friend who lived to 103, and she wasn't Jewish, and Irish Catholic, but whenever you would call Peggy, very bright woman going through business, and said she could have shingles in her eyes, be in the hospital, whatever, her line was always, "I'm good enough."
That reminds me of my grandmother, Dina, who died during Sukkot, right? Must have been 7 years ago, maybe 8. And in her final years there, she lived alone until age 96, and was one of those amazing women who just handled their lives. But towards the end, she would say, "Being old is terrible, but being dead is worse."
My mother is not on this roll call, but she died Erev Rosh Hashanah. She was only 53. And I was present at her site as she took her last breath. I found it incredibly upsetting and moving at the same time, I ran out of the hospital and got on the train to go home where I lived in New Jersey. And suddenly I heard a lot of people around me speaking Polish. And I thought it was weird and strange because my mother was born in Poland, as was I. And it really shook me up. My father was waiting in the lobby and my brother and sister, I couldn't talk to them. I just ran out. I felt I didn't have the same experience, at least as my sister, because she was born after the Second World War, way back, and I'm a lot older than she is. So I find this very moving, and I really appreciate the fact that I can say it today.
Hi, so I don't have a cute story. I have just something following up the theme that Erica talked to us about forgiveness. So my father and my uncle, who were up there, Morris Shore and Albert Shore, 3 of my grandchildren are named after them, and I hope they carry this trait forward about forgiveness. My father and his brother were deserted by their mom when they were like 2 and 3 years old. They were just abandoned in an apartment, crying inside the room. And luckily they had a wonderful father, neighbors, who took care of them till my grandfather remarried. But the beautiful part of this story is my father stayed in touch with his mom, his birth mom, as well as his stepmom, and taught us to love everybody. We would visit them all. There was never a question that who's to judge why someone did something, what happened. Never, ever a question. It was like we should love everybody. Everybody has a place in our heart and a place in our life. And so he lived that whole thing that we were talking about forgiveness, and his brother too, both of them. So I just thought I'd share that.
Thank you, Audrey. Anyone else?
Both my grandfathers were killed during Second World War. Where is the grave of the first of them? And both of them were 40 when they perished. One in 1941, one in 1943. The one which perished first, actually he was lost in action. Nobody know where he is, how he died. He just disappeared. The other one, 6 years ago, I found where exactly when Russia opened the military record of the Second World War, finally. 6 years ago, I found his grave and visited, and it is in the Kharkov region of Ukraine. And in worst nightmares, I could not imagine that there where my grandfather was killed by Germans, now again goes on another war, which makes no sense whatsoever for anybody in Russia or in Ukraine. This war does not make any sense, but people are still dying, and hatred rose on both sides, and that's the worst part of it.
Thank you, Ari.
So I want to speak about a friend. His name is Wolfgang, and he passed away in Berlin a couple of weeks ago. And this is just a story about, what one lives in the course of one life. And he was born in East Germany, grew up there, and with so many restrictions where you could go or not go. And then he he joined the Navy, the East German Navy, and then he got to travel the whole world. And he was on a boat in the Baltic Sea when they got the news that, there was no more East Germany. It was all over. And now they were part of the West German Navy. And, it just from one moment to the next, how historically, things can completely shift, And he made his way to West Germany, but he found that, that new life really wasn't to his liking somehow. The brave new world of, whatever. And so he was a navigator. He knew how to navigate the world, sail the seas by the stars. He ended up moving boxes in a supermarket. And but he was a great man, and he was always laughing, and a wonderful husband to his husband, and a good friend. And I want to say another word too, because we had a teacher pass away at our school last week. Her name was Minda Afondo, a Filipino woman of great faith and great inspiration to us all. Yeah.
Thank you, Jess.
Oh, I just wanted to pay tribute to my grandfather, who came here from Lithuania, and he's the one who given me this great love for davening, melody, but also for food. He's the one who introduced me to black bread with fresh butter and a little salt. So, a tribute to my dear grandfather.
What was his name?
Abraham Gordon.
Abraham Gordon. Beautiful. I'm thinking of my grandfather, Lou Lendman, who was an amazing singer, and he led a senior choir for the last maybe 25 years of his life in Montreal, and they would sing all kinds of songs, and he'd tell jokes in between. My kids know some of his dirtier jokes, but he would sing this one song that was his song. It was Saba Lou's song, and in my memory of the last 10 years of his life, whenever he would sing it, he'd break up and start crying and kind of laugh and cry and sing all at the same time. And it was this song that some of you might know. I believe for every drop of rain that falls, a flower grows. You know that one? I believe that someone in the great somewhere hears every word. Every time I hear a newborn baby cry, or touch a leaf, or see the sky, then I know why I believe. Sabaloo. I'm gonna. Would you open the ark for us? We'll do the El Malei Rachamim with the ark open, and I'll invite you all to please rise. El Malei Rachamim, God full of mercy. It's on page 388. El Malei Rachamim Shochen Bamromim Hamtzeh Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanafei Hashchina. במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת אהובינו שהלכו לעולמם. בעל הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, וינוחו בשלום על משכבם, ונאמר Amen. O God in heaven, filled with compassion for those you bring into this world, grant complete repose to the souls of our loved ones in their eternal home. Sheltered by your divine wings, may they be in the company of the holy and pure, who shine as bright as heaven. Keep their souls in the bond of life, that with you as their portion they may rest in peace. And we say Amen. The Mourner's Kaddish is on the bottom of 390 and the rest of it on page 391. I invite you to speak the words with me. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה לעילה, מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה, ואמרו אמן. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. Thank you. We can do one more psalm and then split for the afternoon. You're welcome to sit or stay. Jonathan, you want to try and help me with that song you sort of learned before? This is Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your staff will comfort me. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי. Only goodness and kindness will chase after me all the days of my life. וישבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים, and I will sit in the house of Adonai forever. מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לו אחסה, בהנות דשא ירביצני, על מי מנוחות ינהלני. גם כי ילך בגיא צלמוות, לא יירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך, שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן, תערוך לפני שולחן, תערוך לפני שולחן, כנגד צורריי. דשנת בשמן ראשי, דשנת בשמן ראשי, דשנת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב החסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, וישבתי בבית אדוני, וישבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. Let us support one another in our moments in which we need comfort. Let's be there for one another. And let's keep the memory and the blessings of those who have passed with us. And we can say together, Yehi Zichram Baruch. Their memory be a blessing. Amen. Thank you.